Released in 1956, The Ten Commandments is one of the most celebrated epics in film history, a monumental retelling of the biblical story of Moses, brought to life by legendary director Cecil B. DeMille. Its stunning visuals, powerful performances, and timeless message captured the hearts of millions. But while the film itself remains eternal, time has taken its toll on the remarkable cast behind the scenes. Many of the stars who brought these iconic characters to life have since passed away, some after long, celebrated careers, others far too soon under tragic or unexpected circumstances. In this video, we take a look back at the lives and legacies of the Ten Commandments actors who are no longer with us. Charlton Heston, born on October 4, 1923, played the role of Moses in the Ten Commandments in 1956 at the age of 33. His portrayal of the Hebrew leader, torn between royal privilege and divine calling, was deeply revered by audiences, solidifying Heston as the face of biblical epic cinema. Moses, as shaped by Heston, was not just a prophet but a reluctant revolutionary, burdened with destiny, inspiring awe and admiration across generations. But the man behind the staff was far more complex than the sanctified figure on screen. Heston grew up in a fractured home. His parents divorced when he was 10, and his father vanished from his life soon after. Raised in the wilds of Michigan, Heston lived in near poverty, retreating into books and films to escape the silence and shame of a broken childhood. Though he reached stardom, his rise was far from smooth. Early in his career, Heston struggled with severe anxiety, often vomiting before takes and obsessively rehearsing lines in isolation, alienating fellow actors. As his fame grew, so did his rigidity. He clashed repeatedly with directors and was notorious for demanding script changes that favored his character. Heston's darkest chapter emerged during his NRA presidency, where his aggressive pro-gun stance and incendiary rhetoric, especially after the Columbine shooting, tarnished his legacy. His own colleagues in Hollywood turned their backs, branding him a pariah. Despite a carefully cultivated public persona of moral clarity, behind closed doors, Heston was known to be emotionally distant, a stern patriarch who ruled his home with an iron grip. Married to Lydia Clark for over 6 decades, their union was anything but calm. Friends reported emotional coldness, long separations, and rumored infidelities. Heston passed away on April 5, 2008, at age 84 from complications related to pneumonia, after a long private battle with Alzheimer's disease in his Beverly Hills estate. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at $40 million, a fortune built not just from acting, but from savvy real estate investments and decades of residuals. His legacy, though grand on screen, remains deeply divided between the myth of Moses and the man who believed himself chosen to reshape America with a gun in hand. Anne Baxter, born May 7, 1923, stepped into the role of the seductive yet tormented Nefertiti in the Ten Commandments at age 33, imbuing the character with emotional desperation and unfiltered sensuality. Her performance, shimmering in jealousy and longing, made Nefertiti unforgettable, a woman scorned, twisted by palace politics and unrequited love. Yet behind the velvet gowns and smoldering eyes, Baxter's real life was a maelstrom of scandal, regret, and secrecy. Born into privilege as the granddaughter of architect Frank Lloyd Wright, she was raised in affluence but starved of affection. Her mother pushed her into acting young, leading to a childhood where failure was not an option and every smile masked pressure. Baxter's career was filled with both triumph and tragedy. Though she won an Oscar early on, she was often typecast, leading to years of frustration and irrelevance. Her darkest downfall came in the 1960s when a high-profile affair with the already married Orson Welles leaked to the press, triggering a media frenzy that nearly destroyed her career. Baxter struggled with chronic insecurity, masking it with alcohol. She frequently arrived on set intoxicated, causing delays and prompting studios to blacklist her temporarily. Her marriage to Randolph Galt was brief and stormy. He took their children to Australia without her, and the couple endured a bitter custody battle that played out in tabloids. In her later years, Baxter was plagued by loneliness, trying to revive her career on television while battling health issues. She died on December 12, 1985, at age 62 from a brain aneurysm after collapsing in a New York hotel. Her estate, worth approximately $3 million, was modest by Hollywood standards and mostly tied to residuals in a small inheritance. Though remembered fondly for her performances, especially in All About Eve and the Ten Commandments, her legacy is shaded with sadness. A woman who burned bright, then faded under the weight of secrets no one wanted to hear. Edward G. Robinson was born on December 12, 1893, and played Dathan in the Ten Commandments, 1956, at age 62. Dathan was the ultimate opportunist, conniving, power-hungry, and dangerously persuasive. Robinson's portrayal was chilling, channeling a character who thrived on betrayal and fear, delighting in the collapse of others. Audiences were both repulsed and mesmerized by Dathan, and Robinson's performance was a masterclass in villainy. Off-screen, however, Robinson was trapped in a different kind of theater, the political witch hunts of McCarthy-era Hollywood. Though he was a fierce anti-fascist who raised funds for war relief, his support of certain liberal organizations led to accusations of communism. Robinson was blacklisted and forced to testify before HUAC not once, but twice. He named names to save his career, something that haunted him privately for decades, especially as some colleagues never forgave him. As a child, he grew up in a Romanian Jewish ghetto in New York, bullied mercilessly for his accent and background. These early humiliations left deep emotional scars that fueled his obsessive need for control on set. He was known to be difficult, often clashing with directors and demanding script changes. Though he married and had a son, Edward Jr., their relationship deteriorated badly due to Robinson's domineering personality. His son later became addicted to drugs and was arrested multiple times, deepening Robinson's personal anguish. In private, he sought solace in alcohol and isolation. His greatest professional humiliation came during the blacklist years when he was reduced to stage roles and B-movie parts, having once been among the highest-paid actors in Hollywood. He died on January 26, 1973, at age 79 in Los Angeles, from bladder cancer. His estate was valued at around $2 million, though his private art collection, including pieces by Degas, Van Gogh, and Picasso, was later appraised at over $6 million. Despite his posthumous recognition with a Special Academy Award 2 months after his death, Robinson died feeling abandoned by the industry he helped shape. Yel Briner, born July 11, 1920, took the screen as the imperious Pharaoh Ramesses II in the Ten Commandments at age 36, a role that forever etched his shaved head and piercing glare to cinematic history. As Ramesses, Briner oozed disdain, control, and kingly rage. His performance was electric, a seductive blend of raw ego and masculine dominance. But beneath the golden armor was a man consumed by control and vanity. Briner's early life was wrapped in mystery, lies, and reinvention. Born in Vladivostok to a Swiss-Mongolian family, he often falsified details about his heritage and age to craft a more exotic persona. Raised in poverty after his father abandoned the family, he worked as a circus acrobat and nightclub guitarist before clawing his way into acting. Briner's fame grew rapidly, but so did his darker impulses. On set, he was known to manipulate lighting, camera angles, and even other actors' lines to keep himself in the spotlight. He developed a bitter rivalry with Charlton Heston, privately mocking his speeches and insisting his Ramesses would outshine Moses. Off-screen, Briner's life was a carousel of affairs, secret children, and multiple wives. His marriage to Doris Kleiner was especially volatile. Allegations of emotional abuse and infidelity plagued their relationship. Briner was also rumored to have had affairs with both men and women in Hollywood's closeted elite, a topic he never addressed publicly. In his later years, his addiction to cigarettes, smoking up to 5 packs a day, caught up with him. He died on October 10, 1985, at age 65, from lung cancer, delivering a haunting anti-smoking PSA from his deathbed. "Now that I'm gone, don't smoke." His estate was worth around $10 million, bolstered by royalties from The King and I and smart property investments. But his legacy remains a paradox: a king on screen, a tyrant in life. Ivon D Carlo was born on September 1st, 1922, and portrayed Sephora in The Ten Commandments, 1956, at age 34. Her character was graceful and dignified. Sephora stood as the emotional anchor to Moses, embodying spiritual strength and quiet resilience. Yet D Carlo's personal story was far removed from this stoic image. Born in Vancouver to a single, impoverished mother, D Carlo never knew her father and grew up in boarding houses and rundown apartments. As a teenager, she danced in nightclubs and beauty contests to support her family, enduring lewd advances and casting couch propositions. She once claimed a studio executive told her she'd never make it unless she gave in sexually. Known as a formidable beauty, she used her allure to advance, famously engaging in a prolonged affair with billionaire Howard Hughes, who kept her in luxury before abruptly cutting her off. Her career hit a wall in the early 1950s, plagued by box office flops and a growing reputation for being difficult, often storming off sets or feuding with co-stars over billing. The most devastating period came after her husband, stuntman Bob Morgan, lost a leg in a catastrophic accident during filming. D Carlo's career stalled as she cared for him and their two children. Their marriage descended into infidelity, debt, and frequent separations. One of her sons, Michael, became a habitual offender with multiple arrests, prompting public embarrassment she tried desperately to conceal. Bankruptcy followed in the 1980s, with D Carlo selling jewelry and memorabilia to survive. In her final years, she was isolated, partially paralyzed after a stroke, and lived quietly in a Woodland Hills retirement home. She died on January 8, 2007, from heart failure at age 84. Her estate was valued at approximately $2 million, bolstered only by royalties from the Munsters and collectibles. Though beloved by fans, she died burdened by regrets, estranged family, and an industry that had long turned its back on her. Nina Foch was born on April 20th, 1924, and starred as Bithia, the compassionate Egyptian princess who defies Pharaoh's edict and rescues baby Moses, in The Ten Commandments at the age of 32. Bithia's character, filled with maternal grace and quiet strength, resonated with audiences for decades. But Foch's life off-screen was a study in solitude and obsessive ambition. Born in the Netherlands and raised in New York City by her single mother, she grew up emotionally neglected and bullied for her accent and introversion. Her estranged father, Dutch conductor Dirk Foch, never played a significant role in her life, leaving her with deep-seated abandonment issues. She channeled her trauma into an early love of performance, but fame came at a price. Despite her elegance and talent, Foch became known as one of Hollywood's most demanding actresses, prone to sudden mood swings and an unrelenting work ethic that alienated peers. She had public fallouts with several directors, including John Sturges and George Sidney, who found her uncooperative and domineering. Her short-lived marriage to actor James Lipton was a volatile union plagued by accusations of emotional abuse and affairs. She refused to have children, citing fear of emotional entanglement, and often spoke of her preference for solitude. Her biggest career disappointment came in the 1960s when she was abruptly replaced in the TV series The Doctors after just a few episodes, an ousting that she later claimed was retaliation for rejecting the inappropriate advances of a producer. She retreated from Hollywood in the 1970s and reinvented herself as an acting coach, mentoring students at USC and quietly advising major stars like Anthony Hopkins and Angelica Houston. Though her public image remained polished, she privately battled depression and a series of undiagnosed autoimmune conditions. Nina Foch died on December 5, 2008, in Los Angeles, from complications of myelodysplastic syndrome, aged 84. Her estate, worth approximately $3 million, included intellectual property rights to several educational films and scripts she wrote but never published. John Derek, born on August 12, 1926, took on the role of Joshua in The Ten Commandments, 1956, at age 30. Joshua, as portrayed by Derek, was a beacon of idealism and moral clarity, a young man willing to risk everything for truth and freedom. The real John Derek, however, was a master of illusion and manipulation. Born into a showbiz family, he was raised in a cold, transactional environment where affection was replaced with ambition. His early life was marked by rebellion, expelled from multiple schools, known for vandalism, and briefly caught up with far-right groups in the early 1940s, a fact he later buried. His good looks won him a contract with major studios, but he lacked acting range, and by the late 1950s, his roles dried up. Reinventing himself as a director, he found notoriety more than acclaim. His greatest scandal was his relationship with Bo Derek, who was only 16 when he, then 46, began grooming her in Europe to evade U.S. statutory rape laws. He divorced then-wife Linda Evans under a media storm and returned with Bo when she was of age, orchestrating her career with an iron grip. His films, Bolero, Tarzan, The Ape Man, Ghost Can't Do It, were universally derided for exploitative content and wooden performances. Critics accused him of turning Bo into a sex object, and she later admitted to feeling creatively stifled. Derek's children from prior relationships often spoke of his absence and coldness, saying he prioritized his image over fatherhood. Despite his carefully curated image, he battled financial instability for years, gambling away much of his earnings and reportedly clashing with studio executives over creative control. He died on May 8, 1998, from heart disease in Santa Maria, California, at age 71. His estate, valued at about $5 million, was largely due to Bo Derek's licensing deals and re-release rights to their controversial films. Though admired for his looks, Derek left behind a tainted legacy of exploitation, narcissism, and fractured relationships that cast a long shadow over his Hollywood career. Martha Scott, born on September 22, 1912, gave a deeply moving performance as Jochebed, the birth mother of Moses in the Ten Commandments, 1956, when she was 44 years old. Her portrayal as a woman willing to sacrifice everything for her child's survival became a symbol of maternal devotion and spiritual faith. Raised in Jamesport, Missouri, she was the daughter of a deeply religious but emotionally unstable mother who believed Martha was cursed after her twin brother died at birth. She endured a lonely childhood, often isolated and forbidden from playing with neighborhood children. This early emotional deprivation left her with a desperate need for validation. Although she gained early fame with her Oscar-nominated role in Our Town, 1940, her career was haunted by a persistent sense of insecurity. Known as obsessively controlling on set, she clashed with actors and directors, once storming off the set of Strange Bargain after a co-star forgot a line. Despite a wholesome public persona, Scott's personal life was far more tumultuous. Her first marriage to radio producer Carlton Alsop ended in divorce after she accused him of embezzling from her. Her second marriage to composer Mel Powell was no better, fraught with jealousy and long separations. Her relationship with her children was strained, with insiders alleging that her intense focus on work left her emotionally unavailable. The darkest chapter of her career came in the early 1960s when she lost nearly all her savings in a failed off-Broadway theater venture she had mortgaged her home to finance. Plagued by debt, she quietly accepted bit parts in TV soap operas and low-budget films just to pay the bills. She never publicly discussed her financial troubles, but close friends recalled her selling jewelry and memorabilia to stay afloat. In her final years, she became reclusive, living quietly in Van Nuys, California, with minimal contact even from family. Martha Scott passed away from natural causes on May 28, 2003, at the age of 90. Her estate was valued at around $2 million, largely stemming from residuals and property holdings, though far below what she might have earned with better financial guidance. Vincent Price was born on May 27, 1911, and brought to life the sadistic Baca in the Ten Commandments, 1956, at age 45. A brutal, aristocratic Egyptian master whose cruelty toward Hebrew slaves ultimately triggers Moses' violent awakening. Price infused Baca with unsettling sexuality and dominance, creating a character audiences both loathed and couldn't look away from. Off-screen, however, Price's carefully crafted image as a cultured gentleman hid a life marked by contradiction, secrecy, and disillusionment. Raised in luxury as the heir to a candy fortune, Price was tormented in youth for his refined speech and delicate mannerisms, an early trauma that fed into his exaggerated theatricality. His personal relationships were fraught with tension. 3 marriages, each more tumultuous than the last. His final union with actress Coral Brown was plagued by accusations of manipulation and infidelity. She once told friends he played marriage like a stage role. Professionally, Price was ridiculed for devolving into campy horror roles after failing to break into serious drama, and privately resented being seen as a caricature. The 1964 flop The Tomb of Lycia was a career nadir, after which he was reportedly blackballed from several major studio productions. Though never caught in a headline scandal, Price was whispered to have led a double life, with persistent rumors of secret bisexual affairs that he neither acknowledged nor disavowed. His son later described him as emotionally distant and often absent, choosing art gallery openings and European travel over fatherhood. Price's obsession with control extended to his art collection, where he was accused of hoarding and undervaluing work from rising artists to maintain elite influence. He died on October 25, 1993 in Los Angeles from lung cancer, age 82. His estate, worth around $5 million, included rare paintings, film royalties, and earnings from his iconic narration in Michael Jackson's Thriller. He remains a paradox, the voice of horror, cloaked in sophistication, but haunted by isolation and a legacy more revered for its style than its truth. Judith Anderson was born on February 10, 1897, and portrayed Memnet in The Ten Commandments, 1956, at the age of 59, a stern, almost spectral presence who unveils Moses' Hebrew identity and sets off a chain reaction that alters history. Her performance was chillingly precise, defined by a quiet menace that made Memnet unforgettable despite her limited screen time. Yet behind that formidable facade was a woman hardened by a grim upbringing. Anderson grew up in a broken home in Adelaide, Australia. Her father abandoned the family and her mother struggled financially, forcing Judith to mask her emotions behind a rigid, almost aristocratic shell. She was mocked for her accent and intense demeanor, which followed her into adulthood. Anderson fought fiercely to be taken seriously, particularly in the male-dominated theater world, where she earned acclaim for her blistering roles like Medea in Lady Macbeth, but at the cost of social isolation. She was notoriously private, disdainful of Hollywood and its vanity, often clashing with producers who described her as impossible to direct. Her contempt for fame resulted in frequent professional sabotage. She turned down numerous roles, insulted casting agents, and even walked off the set of a play in 1952 over a minor line change, leading to a 2-year industry freeze-out. Though she avoided tabloid scandals, she wielded personal control with unnerving intensity. Never married, no children, and rumored long-term affairs with women that she neither confirmed nor denied, once cryptically saying, "Some feelings don't require explanation." Friends described her as emotionally impenetrable, manipulative in rehearsals, and cruelly dismissive of younger actresses, especially those praised for beauty rather than skill. In later years, she withdrew from public life, rejecting interviews and social invitations. She died on January 3, 1992, at age 94 from natural causes in Santa Barbara, California, in total seclusion. At the time of her death, her estate was valued at around $1 million, a modest sum for a woman once hailed as theatrical royalty. Frank Decova was born on March 17, 1910, and appeared as the treacherous Abiram in The Ten Commandments, 1956, at the age of 46. On screen, Abiram symbolized internal dissent among the Hebrew people, a man corrupted by fear and ego, ultimately punished for defying Moses. The parallels between character and actor were more than symbolic. Decova was born in New York City to Italian immigrants and raised in a volatile, impoverished household plagued by violence and alcoholism. His father died young, leaving him as the man of the house before he was a teenager. Decova struggled with intense anxiety and a speech impediment, which he hid behind an exaggerated tough guy persona. He served in World War II and returned shell-shocked, forever changed, prone to bouts of silence and inexplicable rage. Though he found work in westerns and dramatic films, he was known in Hollywood for his erratic behavior, sometimes disappearing from sets for days without explanation. His worst scandal came in 1963 when he was arrested for public intoxication and assault after a drunken confrontation at a Las Vegas casino, an incident quietly suppressed by the studio but whispered about for years. Colleagues described him as brilliant but broken, difficult to direct, and fiercely jealous of more successful actors. He married briefly in the 1950s to a chorus dancer, but the relationship ended after she filed for divorce, citing psychological cruelty. They had one son, who later severed ties with Dova over irreconcilable differences, a story some claimed involved abuse. Dova spent the last years of his life in quiet seclusion in Sepulveda, California, battling heart disease, loneliness, and a growing dependency on sleeping pills and whiskey. He died of heart failure on October 15, 1981, at the age of 71. At the time of his death, he owned 2 rental properties and a small portfolio of silver investments, bringing his estimated net worth to between $1 to $2 million. Though forgotten by the mainstream, Dova's tragic arc, from street-tough survivor to Hollywood cautionary tale, remains one of the darker footnotes in the story of the Ten Commandments. Cedric Hardwick was born on February 19, 1893, and portrayed the authoritative and aging pharaoh Seth in the Ten Commandments, 1956, at the age of 63. His character embodied the moral and political conflict of a ruler caught between love for his adoptive grandson Moses and loyalty to Egyptian law. The performance was regal, brooding, and quietly complex, winning him admiration for his restraint and subtlety. However, Hardwick himself was anything but warm off-screen. Despite being knighted in 1934 for his distinguished work in theater, he became infamous within industry circles for being icy, manipulative, and intolerant of perceived incompetence. He was known to bully younger actors and once demanded a promising co-star be removed from a London stage production simply for upstaging him. Born into a working-class English family, his childhood was defined by financial struggle and a father who was frequently unemployed and abusive. He buried much of that trauma beneath a cultivated public image of refinement. Privately, however, he was emotionally distant and cynical. His marriage to actress Helena Pickard was marred by long separations and bitter arguments, often played out publicly at parties. Their son Edward Hardwick, who would later play Dr. Watson in The Return of Sherlock Holmes, spoke candidly about their estranged relationship, describing his father as a man unable to love anyone. Cedric was also rumored to have had a string of affairs with both men and women during his peak years, rumors he neither confirmed nor denied. In Hollywood, he clashed with directors like Cecil B. DeMille and Alfred Hitchcock, demanding script rewrites and threatening to walk off sets if his lines were changed. His health deteriorated quickly in the 1960s due to years of heavy smoking, brandy dependency, and stress-related ailments. He died of emphysema on August 6, 1964, in New York City, at the age of 71. Despite his long resume, his estate was valued at only around $1 million, much of it tied to theatrical properties in the UK. Jon Keredine, born February 5, 1906, portrayed Aaron, Moses' brother and spiritual right hand, in The Ten Commandments, 1956, at the age of 50, a performance uncharacteristically subdued for a man whose life was anything but. Known for his booming voice and gaunt, dramatic presence, Keredine played Aaron with unexpected humility and steadiness. But off-screen, he was an embodiment of chaos. Born into trauma, his father committed suicide when Jon was a child. Keredine spent much of his early life drifting, eventually living homeless on the East Coast before carving out a reputation in Shakespearean theater. He was brilliant, but deeply erratic, known to lapse into monologues alone in public, quoting Hamlet in hotel lobbies or on sidewalks. Despite appearing in over 200 films, his career was riddled with missed opportunities, walkouts, and studio bans. He was fired from multiple sets for alcohol-fueled outbursts and once admitted to injecting morphine to cope with chronic pain and psychological anguish. His most humiliating professional disaster occurred in 1966, when he collapsed during a live performance, drunk and incoherent, prompting industry whispers that he had become uninsurable. Keredine's personal life was equally turbulent. Married 4 times, with bitter divorces and a notorious custody battle with second wife Sonia Sorrell that ended with his children placed in foster care. His relationship with his son, Kill Bill star David Carradine, was especially combative. David once claimed his father taught him nothing but madness. Jon was accused of sabotaging his own children's careers, offering bad advice and deliberately undermining their auditions. Friends recalled him as brilliant but unreliable, swinging from poetry to rage without warning. He died on November 27, 1988, at age 82, from natural causes while on tour in Milan, Italy. At his death, his estate was valued at around $2 million, collected from a staggering volume of low-budget films rather than critical acclaim. Thank you for watching as we reflected on the lives and legacies of the actors from the 10 Commandments 1956, who are no longer with us. Their humor, charm, and unforgettable performances brought joy to millions and helped shape the show into a classic. While their journeys ended far too soon, their impact lives on through every scene, every laugh, and every memory they've left behind. As we honor their lives, we're reminded of how deeply television can touch our hearts. Join us next time as we look back at more stars who left us too soon, but whose stories continue to shine.